Hi, this is Mary Curick of Frontrunners Innovate magazine, and today I have with me Sri Jimacorn, who is the founder and CEO of Jimacorn, which is sort of a tech, fintech, interesting conglomeration of things that you guys do over there at Jimacorn. And I want you to explain that later, but the reason why we're talking to you now is to talk about data privacy, because in your sector of the world where you have your hands on lots of business, let's just say activities, where it be in the shipping industry, you've got some things going on in finance and how you help companies, take care of their numbers and their clients. I know you do a lot of other things. I'm going to let you talk about that, but because you have your hands in those industries that have very sensitive data that need to be protected, I know that you have ways and means to take care of that that we should probably know about. And from the standpoint that you're headquartered out of India, that also what's going on in India on the front of regulations. So we'll have a little conversation about that. But let's start with your background, Sri. So let's hear a little bit about where you come from and what brought you to where you're at right now with Jimacorn.
Thanks, Mary. Quickly, like we started this Jimicon Technologies way back in 2017, having got experience of about 23 plus years of experience in the industry, having worked with companies like Accenture, Siemens, and I was always thinking to start something on the emerging technology, which would benefit the customer to achieve their business goal. And predominantly like to bring in kind of a digital transformation in the business process. And when they do the digital transformation, of course, like there are a lot of things we have to bring to the table. Say, for example, as you rightly said, one of the key features, what we are currently doing with the Norwegian customer and the Nordic region is working with shipping companies on blockchain, implementing blockchain framework. And when we do that, one of the key challenges is the data security. We concentrate on three areas when you do the emerging technology implementation. Especially we work actively in blockchain. IoT is another space because all these things go hand in hand. You cannot pick and choose one technology and implement it. When we talk about blockchain, we bring in IoT, we bring in artificial intelligence, cognitive computing, and also robotic process automation, all these things. But we never push the customer with specific technology. We see the fitment with the customer and also the kind of the data landscape, what they are currently in. And also we take care, as mentioned by you, one of the key features is before we start implementing anything, we understand the data landscape. And the data landscape, by which I mean the kind of the security that we bring it to the table. There are three aspects. One is data security, data privacy, and information security. These are the three features because moment we start handling the data, and nowadays it is becoming more of a cloud, and it is becoming highly mobile as well. And now we, with the current situation, we are going even virtual as well. So we are aware of the challenges of all this, the current trends. And when we implement it, we also take care of the data security in terms of bringing in vendors like Microsoft. There are a lot of companies who have very good suite of services in terms of the data protection, rather. Like Microsoft Azure, they have Sentinel, and you talk about VMware. They're also having Horizon platform, and similarly AWS. So we ensure that all these things before we start engagement with the customer. We start with the basic fundamental from where and how data sensitive the customer is really, because that would be the first step. Yep.
Yeah, you work globally. I know that. So you're having to deal with whatever data regulations, I guess, are going on in other countries for clients. Tell me how you operate within that scope.
Yeah, so we operate predominantly from our business predominantly is in Europe, UK, and Australia. We do have office in Australia and US as well. Like we are having customers in US. One of the key things nowadays, it's becoming GDPR is the entire European segment is going into GDPR compliant. But having said GDPR, I think GDPR will become a global phenomenon. It is not only going to get restricted with Europe. Nowadays, many of them have started realizing, talking about governance and security and implementation, how we need to be more concerned about the data protection, having gone virtual environment, and everybody accepts it. And very soon, I think GDPR will become a globally accepted practice, not only restricted within Europe. And apart from that, we do have other compliance like HIPAA compliance for healthcare. Healthcare is another major area where we see huge impact. The reason is, of course, you get a lot of health records of a lot of patients which needs to be protected, and there will be a lot of misuse of data, especially from insurance company standpoint. So we also adhere to the local governance, whatever the governance factor like GDPR, if it happens to be Europe, and we try to replicate. And many of the countries, they do have their own regulations, and it is almost similar. The name varies, but the fundamental crux is going to remain the same in terms of the production and the data security practices that we do.
I mean, you do a lot of work in these spaces, variety of spaces. But before we get into more of that sort of thing, talk to me. I want to go back to what you brought up, because you brought up the data privacy, data security, and then there was information security, I think that you said. Tell me that, let's just get to the basics. What are the differences between all of these different sayings? It seems like they're saying the same thing.
Yeah, see, the data protection, of course, it needs what kind of the data that we are going to deal with the customer. And it basically fundamentally goes to the type of data, what we are going to talk about, and also like the basic, the criticality of the data. And the privacy talks more about the policies and the procedures which are specific to a particular industry. Say, for example, if you are going to talk about fintech or banking industry, especially like European companies are more concerned, rather even US companies are more concerned with outsourcing banking process, backend process, where a lot of data of the customer, especially credit card details, all those things being managed by the outsourcing company, that needs to be protected. And the privacy, so there are different frameworks available for data protection, but it is primarily governed on the type of the data, like the privacy, what sort of the privacy. And if it is going to be a banking customer, the privacy is going to be more on the data. And there are some data which are globally available on the internet. So the privacy would vary. It would vary from like the type of the data and also the type of the customer that we deal with. And information security is predominantly a larger phenomenon, I would say, like which takes care of, which brings in everything together under its umbrella, like not only data protection, it talks about a lot about the security features and how we have to be. It is not required that we have to be ISO 27001 compliant, but still there are companies who are not certified, but still they are aligning their practices. It is more about what I say is, what I can say is it's more about the practice that we do in terms of bringing all these things together. And having said that, as mentioned earlier, there are companies which help us to do this implementation. As you talk, like now Microsoft Azure is gaining more importance in terms of the data protection, threat protection, and also like they are coming up with a lot of suite of services. Similarly, AWS is also coming up with services. All these things helps us to assure and reconfirm the customer, yes, your data can be, it's very safe, and because there is always been an ambiguity whenever the data is being handled in the cloud, whether is it safe, having given the data in the, however, you use a private space, but still the question remains like whether it is a safe or, so these companies helps us to assure and helps us to implement whatever been required as per the practices and with the local governance which is there in the respective countries.
You know, this is such a deep subject that we could kind of go on all day long with all the ramifications of it. It's
Yeah.
almost like, when you were talking, I was thinking about how we're not now all having to wear masks. And a lot of people think that the 6 feet, distancing, the physical things that we're doing to protect ourselves during COVID is kind of similar to what's going on with the data privacy situation. It's a new way of doing that. A lot of people think that we're probably not going to get rid of for a while. And if we do, it's going to change in this period of time. It's going to change our mindset to how we view proximity to people, especially and then when people sneeze or cough and we go, we're going to be a little more concerned about where we are, and physically located in connection to them. But I think it's the same thing with this data privacy. It's been around before the pandemic. It's just now we've become hyper concerned with how all this is happening because we're seeing more episodes and challenges that are occurring with it. So is there an overriding concern or issue or a breach concern or whatever that you're hearing from people that you work with or that are coming to you?
See, it was there earlier, I would say, but given this current situation, yes, there are some few cases which is cropping up, especially in the banking segment, where they have to be very concerned and they have to take care of the process, because now having become a lot of work, having become more virtual, and a lot of people started working in a distributed and a remote place. What is the kind of the security that we are going to offer for each and every employee if they are going to work from home, and how are they going to get hooked onto VPN, and what are the other features that we can give in terms of access to the system. So those are the things. Yes, it is cropping up, but of course we have to go by the way, because we cannot change. And how we have been working 6 months before, now it has drastically changed. Yeah, the way of life and the way of work, everything got changed. And going forward, like it would be the same going forward from here onwards. But now, how I think is the kind of a response which we get from the companies. Earlier, there was a kind of, especially in India, earlier there were a bit of a hesitation in terms of the investment in terms of the data security and the data privacy and all those things. But now, having the pandemic and every workforce working remotely, the companies are forthcoming in putting the investment and ensure that data is safe, especially with the employees and also because see, nowadays it is going to cloud. All of a sudden, there is a lot of interest from the companies as well to move on to the virtual mode, the transformation. Earlier, a lot of companies they have been operating on premises in India. Now they're going to cloud because of virtual access and other things. Yes, there is a kind of a few cases which is cropping up here and there, especially on the banking and other critical functions. But having said that, those things are getting addressed with the kind of the technology that we are getting from big giants like Microsoft, IBM, and all of them. So that helps us to immediately address those issues. But as a senior leader, every company should be proactive and predictive in seeing the kind of a threats and how vulnerable is the threat is going to be. And those kind of things is catching up nowadays. And the next big wave, I would say, a big requirement or in terms of the job market would be a kind of the cyber security and the data security and all those things. The compliance segment is going to catch up very soon, and we can see a lot of requirement in those segments.
You mentioned the compliance end of things, and I think that's where where it all kind of meets the road. Where everything that we're all doing is, we're all going every which way but loose, trying to make sure everything's covered, and using the services that you were talking about through these corporations that are providing more coverage for us. But in the end of things, it's all about seeing what the regulations are and how compliant that we are with whatever state or countrywide, regulation comes along. And I know in the United States, we know California has kind of created their own that's based, I think, off the GDPR. But I understand also every other state has sort of their own thing. I think we're moving more toward a federal mandate for the regulation of privacy and security and that sort of thing. But we're still a little ways off from that. So, I think that while it's there, not a lot of businesses understand that it is there, and a lot of it applies to you already. And, once the regulations get more known, then I think that people will understand that, I know in the UK, there's fees attached. You can be incarcerated if you don't pay attention. And the fees can go on, if you don't adhere to them and fix the problems right away. So, breach is a real serious thing. When I talk to consultants in this field, the one thing that they tell me that if it's a breach situation, then they want to get they want to get with the client like ASAP, like right away. This is not I'll talk to you tomorrow situation. This is a let's talk now situation, and start the plan to get this fixed right away, because it's the longer it gets, let's go, then the more damage can be done. So, this is going to be something we'll be watching for some time. And Sri, I appreciate the time given this morning, for me this morning, you the evening, for talking to us about this, because it's really important, and you do a great job with this. So thank you. We've known you guys forever, right? So we're so tickled to be able to have a chat with you and have you share the extent of knowledge that you have, your expertise with us. So thanks, and we'll be checking in, I'm sure, to see how things are going with you guys there in the future. So thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks a lot for your time as well. Thank you. Have a good day.